Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Dragonhill Games, and you're watching This Week in MTG Finance. As always, and before we get started, I want to thank MTG Stocks for allowing us to use graphical information for the purposes of this video. Well, this week, as with in recent weeks, we're going to keep trucking right along with Reserve List and Old School Buyouts. There's some new and interesting additions this week, so let's dive right into our top 10 list, and we're going to start right here in the number 10 spot with Lightning Cloud from Visions. Lightning Cloud's been on and off our list a few times over the course of the last month or so. In fact, it started February being essentially a junk rare, and today we're sitting at $16.42, up 256% this week. Been over Lightning Cloud a couple of times. 4-mana enchantment that essentially allows you to pay 1 red to have it deal 1 damage to a creature or player, and you can only use this ability anytime you cast a red spell, and only once for each of those spells that you cast. Doesn't see a whole lot of play, although I could see this definitely making its way into some casual red decks as spot removal, especially decks that are low to the ground and can generate a bunch of mana. Coming in at number 9 this week, we have a Legends card in Iknomon Druid at $24.50. This is also up 256% this week. Kind of an interesting card. Of note, this is not on the reserve list, although I don't really ever see this getting a reprint. For 3 mana, 2 green, and 1, we're getting a 1/1 Druid that states Iknomon Druid deals 4 damage to any opponent casting an instant. Now, this does not apply to the first instant that opponent casts this turn. An interesting tax for casual green decks, especially when you're facing off against that counterspell opponent. Our number 8 winner is up 296% this week to $4 even, and that would be Illusionary Presence from Ice Age. A pretty terrible card overall, and this kind of goes back to what I've been saying in previous weeks about, for me, I'm only interested in investing in reserve list cards that actually have some play value. I don't really see Illusionary Presence making it into many, if any, decks. For 3 mana, we're getting a 2/2 that has a cumulative upkeep of 1 blue. Now, Illusionary Presence gains a landwalk ability of your choice until end of turn. As with many reserve list cards, this is going up this week simply because it's on the reserve list. At $42.50, our number 7 winner is up 347% this week. Stormseeker from Legends is one of those that falls more on the collector buyout side. It actually is not on the reserve list. It has a Chronicles printing that you can pick up for under 50 cents, should this be a card that you want to add to your collection. It actually sees limited play in decks like Xyrus the Writhing Storm and Selvala Explorer Returned. It would be a fun and interesting card against an opponent who is somehow able to draw a good portion of their deck every turn, because Stormseeker at instant speed deals 1 damage to an opponent for every card in their hand. But that said, this is a pretty narrow card overall. Our number 6 winner is an absolutely iconic card. Here we have a Shivan Dragon, the 5th edition printing, up 407% this week to $19.64. I never thought I would actually say that, and I don't believe that people are actually paying $19.64 for a 5th edition Shivan Dragon. This card has been reprinted to oblivion. It even appeared in free welcome decks back in 2016 and 2017. It consistently crops up in various core sets. I do find it interesting, though, that some of the earlier versions, specifically things like 4th edition at $9.50, and the revised edition, where's that one? Let's find it. Revised edition sitting at $27.40. I find it interesting that a card that has been reprinted so much, and there is such a massive quantity of these things out there. Even if you just look at the 4th and revised edition quantities, there is a ton of these things. So I do find it interesting that the price is really moving on this card, but it's one to kind of keep your eye on, although I wouldn't recommend this as any form of investment. Breaking into the number 5 spot this week, we have a rare from the dark, and that would be Barleys Cage at $17.50. Now, this is up 449% this week. Actually, a fun card for casual commander. For 4 mana, we're getting an artifact that states we can pay 3 to have target creature not untap as normal during its controller's next untap phase. Kind of an interesting way to lock down someone's commander or a problem creature. Of course, this is not on the reserve list. You can pick up a Chronicles or 5th edition copy for really cheap, should you choose to do so. Our top 4 cards this week are all from Legends. So let's start right here with Backdraft, up 573% this week to $13. Not a reserve list card. Of course, that's getting more and more important to note these days. For 2 mana, we're getting an instant that states Backdraft does half of the damage, rounded down, done by 1 sorcery cast this turn to the caster of that sorcery. I would love to be sitting in a game holding Backdraft in my hand when someone casts something like Star of Extinction. At $53 and up 586% this week, Infernal Medusa is our number 3 winner. This isn't a reserve list card, however, it hasn't had any other printings either. There's somewhat of a unique effect on Infernal Medusa. For 5 mana, we're getting a 2/4, and all non-wall creatures blocking Infernal Medusa are destroyed at the end of combat, as well as all creatures blocked by Infernal Medusa. Sort of feels like a death touch kind of thing, but she doesn't actually have to deal damage. There's been some really wild spikes on some of these old school collectible non-reserve list cards from Legends, and our top 2 winners this week are no exception to that. In the number 2 spot, we have Aisha Tanaka at $312. This is up 1,543% this week. Here we have a card that's actually somewhat playable, at least maybe in some casual or control style decks. For 4 mana, we're getting a 2/2 legendary, but you can tap her to have an artifact's effect that requires an activation cost be countered unless its controller pays 1 white. There's actually a few commander builds running Aisha as the pilot, but she does appear in a limited format in certain control decks as well. And our big winner this week, up 6,150%, is Stang from Legends at $625. This is not a reserve list card, in fact has a Chronicles printing and a pretty cool new alternate art in Masters 25. I thought to myself, well, there's no way that this card is actually selling for anywhere near this price. So I had a look over on eBay, and I was wrong to some extent. On February 26th, someone purchased an ungraded copy of Stang for $380 plus $20 shipping. So we're looking at around $400 really is what the last one kind of sold for. But it quickly falls off a cliff from there. In the weeks prior, people were buying mint-graded copies for around $150, shipping included. Who knows where this card is actually going to go and when it's actually going to stop. I dug through some of my really old Legends cards and managed to find a couple copies of Stang. So I have some pretty nice ones in my store. If that's something you're interested in picking up, shoot me a message at info@dragonhillgames.com. I'd be happy to cut you an amazing deal on your very own copy of Stang from Legends. Alright, before we get into cards I'm investing in this week, as always, if you're a subscriber, you know I want to thank you for your continued support. And if not, now's a great time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Alright, let's kick things off with Emerald Medallion, specifically the Commander Anthology version. At under $8, this is a fantastic pickup. It's down off its recent all-time highs of nearly $10, and it's priced in conjunction with its other printings. All of the medallions have recently been moving a lot. In fact, Ruby Medallion is in all-time high territory at nearly $43, and Jet Medallion is following in lockstep. I don't think Emerald Medallion ever gets to those heights. It's not quite as in demand as the red and black versions. However, all of the medallions find their way into a ton of commander decks, and they're all consistently moving up in value. I actually recommended Emerald Medallion as one of my buy list cards last year when it was in the $2 to $3 range. And here we have it at $8, and I'm still recommending this card as one you should buy and invest in. Even if these medallions get reprinted again in the near future, which I think is a very distinct possibility, this is the type of card that will continue to climb over time. There's never going to be enough of these cards out there. I did a video last week on the top 5 reserve list cards I'm looking at right now, so I'll put that up in the top right corner. If that's something you're interested, go ahead and check that out. And Debt of Loyalty was my #1 choice in that video as a card you should be looking at for investment purposes right now. And at that time, it was sitting at $20. Here we are today at $30, and I still think that this is a great investment at this price, although I will say time is probably running out to pick this one up for a reasonable price. Debt of Loyalty is a really good card, and for me, I feel like my long-term vision of this card is around the $50 to $60 price range. For 3 mana, we're getting an instant that states regenerate target creature and gain control of that creature. There's almost no spells out there that let you gain control of a creature for just 3 mana. On top of this, you can use this since it's instant speed to save one of your own valuable creatures in the event of a catastrophe. But I really like this in control decks to just basically be able to gain control of a creature you would really rather not have to deal with. So like I was saying, at 30 bucks, I think this is a great pickup, especially if you just want to add one to your own personal collection. And last but not least, we have our speculation play for the week. That's right, it's Stifle from Conspiracy. Now, usually with spec plays, I try to pick cards that are around $1 or a couple of bucks or something like that I think have a big potential of moving. However, I think the Conspiracy version of Stifle is going to be moving in the very near future. At $5.75, it's a long way off of the Scourge printing currently sitting at $24. So there is a massive gap in the pricing there. This sees a lot of play in legacy decks, and to some extent in Commander as well. I believe that most of the blue from Time Spiral Remastered has been spoiled, and I haven't seen Stifle anywhere in there. Not sure it quite fits into that set, but regardless, it's not in there as a reprint anyway. So I don't really see anywhere that Stifle is going to get reprinted in the very near future, and I think that the Conspiracy printing of this is going to be narrowing the gap in the near future. All right, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of This Week in MTG Finance. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps me out, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.